Hey guys, what's going on today? I have with me one of the best node operators on THORChain, maybe ever, up there with Runtard, absolute legend. I have Slambammer today. Our topic's quite simple. We're going to be talking about what it is like to be a node operator, okay? What to expect, specs, tech, all that stuff. So we're going to get right into it. Slambammer, how you doing, bro?
I'm great, Denny. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for joining me, man. I really appreciate you doing this, sacrificing your Sunday to talk to me. You have been someone who's trained node operators before. You are a wonderful contributor to this ecosystem. I cannot thank you enough. This is something that
Appreciate it.
I simply can't talk about because I just don't have these skills. So I'm so glad you're here. So let's get right into it, man. So, okay, I'll give it to the floor. Maybe give a quick introduction of yourself, and we'll go right into it, buddy.
Sure. Well, I think probably going back to how I got into crypto was I got involved with Ethereum mining. Around about the end of 2020, 2021, when that huge mining boom was kicking off, I needed something to do in the pandemic, and I'd built computers before, so I just picked it up as a hobby, and I found it really fun, really enjoyable, and I got really interested in the tech as well. So I built quite a few mining rigs, but then I also got interested in how the technology itself worked. And I guess I got a bit um, disillusioned with how a lot of people would invest or would throw their entire life savings into crypto with zero understanding about how anything worked. And a lot of it was vaporware, to if I'm honest. And I did what I could in the space to try and help people understand things. And eventually, I came across THORChain, which uh, really blew me away because it was one of the first projects that I looked at as a product that I actually used. Right, this isn't some project promising something that in 5 years' time we're going to build an ecosystem that everyone's going to love. This is a product that I would use right now. So yeah, I thought that it was an excellent way. I thought that the economics behind it and the way that the project was structured was really quite brilliant. And so I started dabbling in it. I invested in Rune. I became an LP. I didn't become a node operator until much later, but yeah, I was around THORChain for all that time. And then obviously we had the THORFi issue that sort of came to a head at the start of 2025. And at that point, I didn't have anything in lending, but I had saves and liquidity positions. And my thought was I either had to really get in and get involved, or I had to get out and cut my losses. And so I decided to double down and become an operator.
And I'm so glad you did, man. You have been just such a great contributor of the ecosystem. And for those who don't know, what is THORChain? It's basically a cross-chain MM, right? Real
Yeah.
layer one to layer one swaps, permissionless, no KYC, decentralized, and Slambammer is part of that decentralization. So I guess we'll kick it off there, guys. So what is the job of a node operator? What does a node operator do?
So I was giving it some thought, when I was in the car before this meeting, and I think the best way I could describe it is you're pretty much on the board of directors of THORChain. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there is quite a few technical elements to the role, which we can discuss a bit further. But I think the main thing that I would I hold as a node operator is that it's part of my role to govern the network in the interest of sustaining it. And so whatever I do technically, that's sort of part and parcel. That's the administration of it. But your main role as a node operator, in my view, is to look at what the state of the network is, look at what the changes that are coming up, take a position and a stance on matters that are coming up. Occasionally we'll have different parameters of the network that are changed. We call them mimiers, and we can set those parameters, and those are often put to a vote. I think it's a node operator's responsibility to actively monitor those votes, vote promptly, and or create a discussion if you don't feel comfortable with that. Or it's your responsibility to voice and propose changes to the network. That to me is one of the critical things that I believe a node operator is.
Yeah, if you are a node operator, you're essentially a steward of the most
Yeah,
powerful DeFi engine that's ever existed, right? And you are really on, as you said, the board of directors. You are in the thick of it. You are determining the destiny of THORChain. So it's an awesome responsibility. It's a powerful responsibility. It's incredible. So, okay, a node operator. Why become a node operator? Do like node operators make money, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely times when it does cost you, but yeah, I think let's discuss the costs initially. So there's a few key things that you need to bear in mind. So to have a node churned in, you need 300,000 rune. That, as of today, is about, I think there's a node here with it. So 300,000 rune is $120,000 US, roughly. That fluctuates significantly, as the rune price moves, but it's no small amount. You don't have to come up with all of it by yourself. You can get sponsors essentially, which I can discuss in a bit, but there is sort of a capital requirements to join the network, and the reason for this is you are you are making decisions on this network. So part of it is governance decisions, and also part of it is just decisions related to um, you know literally your node is signing transactions, and you technically have the power to go in and sign a transaction that doesn't exist. So someone who is a node operator has to have capital at stake to essentially ensure that they act honestly. So I think that's the first portion of the cost. And the second part of the cost is going to be the infrastructure that you run your node on. So your node is effectively a server that you run. In my professional career, I do work in software, and so I've been around AWS and things like that, and I do know that in the past there were people that ran their nodes on AWS. I think I haven't done that personally, and I think that if you do that, you're looking in the region of a few thousand US per month, to have that instance up and running. If you go a bare metal setup, which is what I've been doing, and I know that several other node operators have been doing as well, you're looking at you know a few thousand dollars to build yourself a rig, and then obviously ongoing costs for hosting it somewhere or hosting it where you are. You need a very stable, very fast internet connection. But other than that, yeah, once you set up your setup. So
Right.
yeah, that's I guess the most I can say about the costs, and then perhaps the revenues. So um, again, this is let's just talk about how the structure works, right? So when people use THORChain, which is, as we've said, a DEX, so when people swap funds through THORChain, they are charged a fee for that, and that fee largely gets paid out to the node operators, and that's split across all of the active nodes in proportion to the bond that they have on that node, right? And that's the capital that I mentioned previously. Now, if you've put up all that capital yourself, then that comes straight to you. If you have sponsors or what we call bond providers, that will be allocated to those bond providers, but you are able to set a fee on the node to get that. And I can honestly say on the network at the moment, that fee is set but anything between 10 and 20%, I would say is what a usual amount is. So if we're looking at a node that has sort of the maximum efficient rune bonded, which is around a million rune, you're, I would say, are looking at a return of somewhere between, let's say, if you set your fee at 10%, you could look to earn maybe 100 rune a day, which is about 40 US per day in terms of fees. Now, I'm going to caveat all of that by saying this depends. This number can change wildly. First of all, as soon as the rune price changes, those earnings change significantly. And then obviously any change in the network activity will make that swing. So if I look at the um, last week Sunday we did 10 million in volume, and then last week Monday we did 45 million in volume, and so your revenue is going to swing wildly across those days. So again, I'm just throwing out numbers there. I think take it more as an order of magnitude kind of number rather than an absolute uh, figure. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And just to bring it whole here, so the node operators, they're observing transactions. You get Bitcoin to Ethereum swap or whatever, anything that uses THORChain, you get a small commission of that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how they make their money. And historically, I think Ruin is what, like 40 cents right now. This is a for in terms of entry point to get enough capital, as you said earlier, it's about $120,000 to get the minimum.
Yeah.
This is the cheapest it's been for a long time to get ruined. So if you are someone who has the capital and you're interested in being a part of the decentralized network of THORChain, this is a great time to do it. Relatively speaking to historical, I mean, Rune could go up, it could go down. Who knows? We're not oracles here of price, but
Yeah.
if you wanted to get your 300,000 Rune, this is the time to do it. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we've now covered what a node operator does, the why you should do it, right? You become a steward, you make money. So
Mhm.
let's talk about the technicals. Like, what
Sure.
kind of skill set, Slambammer, is required to be a node operator?
I think in my view, the main thing that you need to do is be responsive, right? So I think one of the first of all, if you are considering at all being a node operator, you have to go and read the guide by Runtard, and you have to read it again and again and again. Feel free to ask questions about it in the Discord. There's plenty of people that will help you out there. But I would say, as far as it's literally a run book to do it. Definitely familiarize yourself with that guide. But and I think also in the docs it mentions, if you've worked with Pager or any sort of incident management system, you need to be able to respond to things that happen on your node or on the network sort of immediately. So I would say that's the number one thing, and that's not a technical requirement, right? Well, it is insofar as you probably you shouldn't be anywhere further than, I don't know, a few hours away from your laptop that you can manage your node on. Um, in terms of the other technical requirements, if I'm honest, I would say you need to be curious and ready to learn. I can say that while I do work in software, I'm not a developer, I'm not a technical resource in my current role, and I was able to learn the skills to run a node. The guides that they have that Runetards put together are tremendous. The things like AI are incredibly helpful now. Again, I wouldn't sort of run commands blank. You need to have your wits about you, but yeah, there's a lot of support around you. But I wouldn't want anyone to be put off from the technical aspects. I mean, anyone who's done sort of entry level um, computing, like if you've built computers before, you understand the components like general architecture and things like that. I think you should be fine. Um, the guides that are currently used run the node in Kubernetes. Um, so I know that other people have some other Docker setups and other things like that. I'm myself am using Kubernetes, and again, there is some thing to get your head around that if you haven't worked with it before. But again, the main thing is try it, get involved, and do it. And another thing that I would say is you are able to build a node before you fund it, right? So it's not a question of you have to go out and buy everything and then put it together. Even if you don't, even if you have sort of an old box and it's not quite up to the spec an active node would need, you can try and build the structure of it to get experience with the process if you're considering this. And I think any, you know, mid to high end consumer PC could run a node and give you an idea about what it would be like. I wouldn't take it active, but you could go through the process.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that. And these guides, guys, if you're watching the recording of this video, they will be in the description below to help you get started, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, okay. So I think the most important thing is, yes, you need technical skill, but I think you said something really important there is that you just need the drive and the willingness to learn, right? But the thing I would say is, maybe you can back me up on this. It's a challenge. Of course, it's a
yes,
challenge, but at this point, it really hasn't been it's never been it's never been easier because you have
no,
such a powerful community that is willing to help you every step of the way to diagnose. If you are willing to put forth the effort, there are people like Slambammer, Ruintard, Sammy, so many others,
yeah,
DeFi, they will help you. Okay.
yeah,
So, and I'm really glad you mentioned you don't need to put the capital requirements up front in terms of acquiring the rune. Give it a shot. Try to make a node and get it going, get a proof of concept,
yeah.
and then you can take it from there.
Yeah, yeah. There's you can do a mid guard setup, right, which is basically just the Thor node itself, which is not a validator. You can spin that up. There's all sorts of stuff you can do to, you know, experiment with the tech and get yourself a bit more comfortable. I think another another thing that I would also emphasize is you depending on it's not a get rich quick scheme, right? So, like I said, it's something that first of all you're a steward of the network, and the second thing is, you know, there's regular updates that come out. There's new chains that come in, which you may need to increase your hardware, or you know, there's constant change on this network, and that's just sort of the improvements. Then there's also the other side where, you know, there's often, well, occasionally something will happen on the network where, you know, we need to hold trading and stuff like this. In January we had a few incidents like that, and it is important that as a node operator you are monitoring the network, that, you know, you are looking to see, oh, there's a massive swap coming in, do we know anything about it? I mean, there was in January we had this massive uh swap come through, and I mean, I get nervous anytime that happens, but for all intents and purposes, it looked fine. And then, you
Yeah.
know, a few days later, it comes out that, oh, you know, someone says, oh, it's unfortunate, these were, you know, hacked funds and things like that. But these are things that you need to kind of be prepared for, and, you know, understand that the public can challenge you on. And yeah, it is a process that it's not a set and forget process.
Right.
It's a living, breathing network that, you know, does require attention. And
Yeah,
I
it's
think
it's it's the frontier, right? It's
yeah,
absolute frontier. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
no, I think what I was also going to say is that another thing to bear in mind is we talk about every in crypto we have this idea of decentralization, and everyone just, if everyone says, oh great, you know, decentralization is great, everything needs to be decentralized. And I think sometimes people forget what that actually means, right? So the strength that decentralization provides is it's censorship resistant, and you cannot, it becomes harder and harder to attack and take down and, you know, compromise the network. It is not without cost, right? What my view is that what comes with decentralization is um, it can be messy, right? So as an example, we have um, as I mentioned, being a node operator is like being having a seat on the board, right? Because you're making decisions about the governance of the network. And if you've ever been in sort of any upper management meetings in a business context, sometimes those can get heated, but that is often in a closed room far away from your clients. Now, in a decentralized ecosystem, those board meetings happen in public. They happen in THORChain spaces. They happen in the Discord, and it can be, it can be challenging. And the public then look to you and say, "Oh, well, why don't you have a PR team, a marketing team to handle all of this?" And just be aware, to some extent, that's what also comes with decentralization is everything is out in the open. There is no closed doors, and you've got to, you know, take a stand and put yourself forward. So yeah, there's a that I would say don't underestimate that as well, right? And again, maybe I don't want to put people off with that as well. There's a spectrum, right? I'm probably one of the more publicly facing node operators. I'm quite vocal on spaces. Again, I haven't been a node operator for as long as quite a few other people, but I do voice my opinion regularly on the network. But there are some, really great people who sort of maybe hang a bit back. A lot of technical support and sort of support behind the scenes, but sort of aren't as publicly facing. So there is a spectrum of there, but
Right.
there comes a time when in some forum or other, you're probably going to need to sort of make a stance one way or other, where it's Mimirs, spaces, somewhere.
Yeah, you are executing your effect as a steward. You have an opinion. You are voicing that, and I like what you said that about decentralization because I think that's really cool. Is THORChain is decentralized, and yes, there are quirks to that. Like a centralized system can be very efficient and snappy and responsive, right?
Mhm.
But but it's also prone to capture where THORChain is really decentralized and it's hardy. Well, the really cool thing, if you're a node operator, and this all sounds very intimidating, THORChain is actually quite proactive. Like for you, example, you host regular drills, right?
Yeah.
Of like pausing chains and starting chains. And so THORChain tries to maximize its ability to respond despite the fact that it's very decentralized. I think we have over 100 node operators currently. We have a maximum of 120. It's not a technical limitation right now. It's more of just
Yeah.
a mere configuration, but
Mhm.
and we can increase that, and we do want to increase that. We can talk about that later. But that's one thing I really like about what we do is we're very proactive and we try to make it. Also, when it comes to communicating on Discord, maybe some people are listening to this like, hey, I want to retain my privacy as much as possible. We have that relay right on Discord where you
Yeah.
can communicate with your node. You don't have to make a profile on Discord, or you see what I'm saying? Like you can communicate that way and get response that way. So there's a lot of ways of which we can preserve your privacy as a node operator, but your ability to affect change on the network is not diminished.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very good call out, right? And I myself have also used the relay function. Again, at times, especially, and this is maybe one of my considerations, because of the setup I've got and the structure I've got is, I haven't put up all the capital by myself. I do have bond providers, and so to some extent, while I have opinions on the network, I also have a responsibility to my bond providers to reflect their views. Um, Again, different node operators will have different philosophies on how they handle this. My stance is I will tend to manage what I would consider more administrative changes without too much consultation. Like, for example, to say, oh, if we're going to hold to churn or something like this, that to me is not something that I would speak to my bond providers about. That's more administration, and it's not sort of a main consideration of the network. If it's something, for example, like there's an ADR going on at the moment, which is to burn a significant portion of the reserve, that's a far more economic change, and it's a wide-reaching change, and one that will affect all investors. And I think those are ones where I would say, look, this is the change on the table. This is my view. This is my intent, on the way that I plan on voting. What are your thoughts? And then I'll see what my bond providers say. Obviously, if I have someone who's bonded the capital to half a node, their voice carries more weight than someone who's bonded, 5,000 or even 1,000. Again, part of my philosophy is I want as many people to be involved as THORChain as possible. So I've sort of set my limits for bond providers quite low because I want people to come on board. But yeah, the important thing is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, to some extent, I also sometimes try and separate my voice from my node's voice, right? Because my voice is my own. I have opinions. I obviously pay a lot of attention to the network, and I have thoughts, but to some extent, not all of the governance power on my node is my own, and that is an important part of a consideration. Is if you do have one providers, I think it's important that you consider their voice as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. So there's a lot of different ways you can have a relationship. If you're listening to this and you say, "Well, I want to have 800,000 rune," and then you have one maybe BPs with 50,000. Well, obviously they're a significant minority share of the node operator. Maybe you
Mhm.
have 50-50, right? You have maybe 500,000 rune, they have 500,000 rune, and then you have to come consensus. There are some whales out there who do not have technical skills, and they actually have nodes designated specifically to them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where and then essentially you run the day-to-day daily operations, you're running the infrastructure side, you get a fee from that. But they obviously it's their vote for the ADR, right? They are,
yeah,
they have their voice and you implement their wishes. And so there's a lot of ways this relationship can happen, right?
yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways of which you can source your rune. Like you said, you can acquire it yourself, or you can be someone who runs infrastructure for other BPs, right, as well. And you are you are the caretaker of the node.
Mhm. Yeah, and Denny is being modest because he hasn't yet mentioned one of the key ways where you can acquire bond is Rune Bond, which is I think a really cool site that's sprung up where you can list your node, and people can have a look, and then request to whitelist on your node. Um, but yeah, there's as Denny's saying, there's many different ways in which you can acquire bond. I will say that, again, if speaking of myself, I'm not someone who came in with heaps of connections to massive crypto whales. So that was a significant sort of thing for me to handle at the start. But again, I'm quite blown away by the fact that what is on paper a competitive endeavor, right? So in essence, node operators are competing with each other. Um, it's incredible how much the community actually comes together to get new node operators set up. And yeah, because I think we all understand how important it is for the health of the network. And I can say that one of the greatest things about working with THORChain is I work with truly exceptional people, right? So I think if we've mentioned a few names like Ruintard, someone who's committed as much to the ideals that he's sort of sacrificing his own financial gain for the health of the network and the mission, and really putting in a lot of efforts to onboard new node operators. He was instrumental in getting me on board. You've got, yeah, there's so many other
Yes.
node operators who contributed massively to guides, are always helpful on the on Telegram, on Discord. It's really great to see how much community there is.
Let's break that down a little bit. So, what you're saying here is very important. So, why is Slambammer right now? Why are we having this conversation? Why does he care that more node operators join the network when he himself could just maybe spin up more nodes and get more BPs and essentially get more revenue from having more nodes? It's because the more unique node operators we have on THORChain, the more secure his rune is. And so technically, yes, you are competitors from the standpoint of you'll be a he's a node operator, you'll be a node operator. You don't want to get slashes, which we can talk about in a little bit. You want to have the
Yeah.
best performance. But the most important thing is, though, is having a decentralized stewardship of the network, which is we're bullish, guys. It is what it is. It's probably going to be the most transformational economic infrastructure that blockchain has ever seen, especially with the other primitives that we have coming. So we are building this now to make THORChain as hardy as possible. And so when you are a competent node operator alongside him, yes, you guys compete for BPs. Yes, you compete for market share, but it's also, he is going to help you diagnose problems, because if you are validating transactions, if you are turned in, the whole system itself is more secure. It's a very interesting dynamic. And like Slambammer was saying, I have never really experienced anything like this, that is technically competitive, but at the same time, you depend on each other. It is a very, very interesting dynamic. It's an extremely interesting ethos that we have here. I've never experienced anything like it. And that's why I'm hooked beyond measure. And it's, you have to get your feet wet. You have to get in the community to understand
Yeah.
what this like. Runetard is a silly name. That's a silly avatar, but it is emblematic of just how committed he is. He is Runetarded. He is in
Yeah.
it to win it. He's in for the long haul. And yeah, you can't emphasize that enough. So that's why we make this video. That's why we're having this conversation, because you are very important to this story, the listener,
Yeah.
the viewer.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you know, I think maybe to just put again a bit more of my personal view on this, right? So, um, I've before becoming a node operator, I was still involved with THORChain, and there's a lot that's gone on this network. You know, we've been through hacks and everything like this, and I think that's not one thing is that's a testament just to how resilient the network is, that it's survived for this long in a pretty brutal space, right? Because in the world of, you know, commercial software, you can have like a day zero incident or a P1 or whatever, right? And you can come back from that because you can roll stuff back and things like this. In
Right.
in crypto, or specifically on THORChain, where we are holding exogenous assets, I mean, we could roll back and say, okay, well, everyone gets their ruin back, but you know, if we get something wrong, exogenous assets are gone, and there's no getting that back. And you know, the I think THORChain, by and large, has done an incredible job of, you know, staying on top of that. Um, so that's one thing. And I think the other thing about it, this is kind of what I'm talking about, is, you know, making the network resilient. Having more node operators just makes the network more resilient. If first of all, I can say my node's gone down before, right? I had a it was running, and for some reason I had an issue with my network interface. Relatively simple issue, but if it's effectively your internet connection goes down, your node's offline, right? Now, if I'm responsible for a third of the network, that would freeze the network. If I'm responsible for 10% of the network, sure, THORChain will keep going, but churns would be significantly delayed, and all of those sort of things. The more node operators we have, the more distributed and stable that the network becomes. And it also, I mean, I know that we've had instances where, yeah, maybe we won't get, but
Well,
it becomes, sorry,
yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Listen, 2021, THORChain was born. It was called ChaosNet, the
yeah,
first ones ever to do cross layer one swaps. And this THORChain is almost 700,000 lines of code now. This has been the most unbelievably challenging and complicated story. In the first year and 2, 3 years, you name it happened. We had the exploits in the very early days that led to a bunch of security changes. We've had
yeah,
consensus failures. We've had double spends. We've had every single imagined problem you could have. With every new chain we add comes new challenges, new idiosyncrasies, new nuances, new things that happen. But the code, we never stopped. We never gave up. And to your point, Slambammer, I think this is just a testament to the real human story behind THORChain. We never gave up because we are all fighting for a vision. An
yeah,
ethos backs our motives. Permissionless, no KYC, decentralized, how economic infrastructure should run, right? We are trying to build something here that the world is going to use. And
yeah,
so, yes, this is, that's the problem, Slambammer, right? Like, for every major success THORChain's had, in which 99.9% of decisions we made are correct, it's code, right? The 0.01% decisions can be pretty tough. And
yeah,
those are the things people hear about. Those things they remember. They don't hear about all the correct things that we've done, right? And so this is an ongoing story. THORChain, what it is in 2026, is not even remotely close to what it was in 2021. It is a hardened, battle-tested ecosystem. It is tough as hell. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And again, I mean, it's it's something I I my name's not Ruintide was taken obviously, but I remember going to once to a crypto conference where I had Thor wallet on my phone and I was just literally like, hey, I'll give you some rune, just go and just go and use it.
Yeah.
Here's rune, go and put it in a liquidity pool or like whatever. I'm if you're at all involved in the crypto ecosystem, I'm just a huge proponent of just try and use it. And again, I'll also say that I think crypto had a long way to from even 2021. It had a long way to come in terms of usability. I mean, I still have my old ledger, and but I'm using Voltisig mainly now. But yeah, I mean, trying to get this transaction done on this two-button thing, it can be frustrating. But we've come leaps and bounds in terms of how easy crypto is to use, and also looking at the layers that people are building on top of actual decentralized things. Like, I think Ruggiero is amazing, right? I think that was one of the massively promising things that came out of 2025. We have I've been listening a bit to like Mocha and what they're doing there. Obviously on the spaces we have many other wallets coming in talking about kind of the functionality that they want to build on top of basically THORChain as a settlement layer, which is there's a lot of really really promising stuff, and that's kind of why I'm still here, right? I'm interested in
Yeah.
this, and it excites me.
The potential is absolutely incredible. I mean, and to give people who don't know, Ruggiero is the app layer that's on going to be built on top of THORChain. Every single DeFi primitive on that, it's not really DeFi if it's on a centralized exchange, but you know what I mean, lending, perps, all this stuff that is coming to THORChain. We finally figured out the correct way to do it, and it's a system that's fully auditable. Right, like if you get people liquidated on, like, say, a Binance or something, what Oracle were they using? There's gameable there with THORChain, everything, and Ruggiero. It's all open source. You can see it. Mocha, a settlement layer. You go
Yeah,
into a store, Slambammer, you're selling water. I want a bottle of water. I've got Zcash or I've got Bitcoin or Litecoin. How do we buy? How do we settle? Well, with THORChain, and there's another protocol, a fork called Maya protocol. It's a simple, you take the Litecoin, it goes to the pool, it gets converted into the settlement layer and sent to the business. Now we are buying goods and services with the decentralized, permissionless liquidity pools of THORChain. That is absolutely incredible. So that's why we have node operators. People see the potential, and things are just looking so good. So okay, this is big. Let's go back to being a node operator. Let's
yeah,
make
yeah.
it. Let's
Sorry.
no. It's
Yeah,
important it's important for the audience to understand why we're here and the battle and the struggle we've had. I mean, it's a
yeah.
story to be told, right? So as a node operator, what is it like day to day? Like, let's talk about, like, let's say, what was last week like for you as a node operator?
Last week. So, oh, uh, there's a few things that have happened. I know that there were some chain daemons needed an update. There was a Bifrost patch that came in to there was one was for Solana, and then there was another one for I think that was maybe more than
Yeah,
a week ago.
maybe
Yeah,
let's that question's a little specific. Maybe an average week for you. What Maybe let's go with
yeah,
that, because this
yeah,
is a big week. We're getting Solana on board, so maybe that
yeah,
was a bad
yeah,
question.
yeah. Fair,
We're
fair.
adding a new chain. Yeah, maybe an average work week. Go ahead.
So yeah, so I was like I don't necessarily have to log on to my node daily, but there's many websites that you can do to monitor the network. You can monitor your node's performance. There's a whole bunch of, I mean, one of the websites that I look at every day is THORChain.net, and if you go to THORChain.net /nodes, it just shows you. For me, this is kind of like the entire state of the network on one screen. You just see a list of all the nodes, what their slash is, what the bond return is. You can literally see the state of every node and every chain on that node. It's that for me is a major thing. So that's basically my homepage. So every time I open up my browser, I scan that. Um,
And for those who don't know, we actually had a video where we highlighted the very important dashboards of the shared ecosystem. So the link will be down below for those who are interested. Go ahead, Slambammer.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that for me is kind of one of the main places that I look. Another thing is then just being active in Discord and Telegram. Again, like I said, part of your responsibility as a node operator is to look at the state of the network and the changes that are coming. Obviously, a lot of those changes are discussed on the Discord, and there's a lot of discussion that happens there. Occasionally, going to GitLab and reviewing some stuff there. Again, I'm not a super cracked developer like some of the guys that we have working on our project, but yeah, there's occasionally times I'll look over a few pull requests, and I've put in maybe one or two of my own just to fix up some sort of config or you know lists or things like that on the node operation itself. But yeah, I think the main thing is just being engaged and monitoring the network. And for that, I would say whatever dashboard you have related to your node. So you can use this external website. I know other people have amazing dashboards that they've built in Grafana that monitor the state of the nodes, but you have to be monitoring the state of your node, you know, I would suggest a few times a day, especially at the start, until you get a feel of it, and then monitoring Discord as well. Again, we've got lots of great channels for alerts on large swaps coming through, rescheduled, outbound, like basically any significant events on the network are often highlighted in the Discord as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's say it's 2 a.m. your time, right?
Yeah.
And an issue happens. Do you have a system notification that wakes you up? Like, let's just say it's like something your node just crashes. Do you have a system? Sometimes you have to wake up in the middle of the night and address things, or how common is that? Would you say maybe less
Um,
common that you're experienced? Like, how was it when you first started? What was that like?
yeah, I think yeah, when I first started, it was I think a lot more stressful, and I think you take things to heart a lot more. I put a post in Discord for one of the newer operators recently, basically saying, because he was saying like, look, I've just churned in, and you know my node was far less stable than I thought, and I'm churning out now, and I just said, hey, that's okay, it's predictable, not the end of the world. The main thing is, unless I think by and large, unless you act to attack the network, in that you actually go into your node and try and sign a transaction that wasn't observed, your bond is safe, right? You just get less rewards, which is fine. You can learn, right? And again, most of the bond providers are quite understanding of that. I did have a few bond providers leave in the early days, which I did take quite hard, but that's part of it, right? Um, but yeah, I, I think the main thing is just being proactive. You don't necessarily have to fix everything that hour. Let's say your node goes down and it's been down for an hour. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. The network still goes on. The more node operators we have, the more nodes we can tolerate going down. But you can't leave it that way for weeks. And we have had situations where there's been, you know, I can't remember the operator exactly, but there's been a few nodes that have been, shall we say, limping along for quite a while, and that does things like hold up churns and things like that. So I would say if your node goes down, you should be prepared to fix it within 24 hours. I think that's a reasonable expectation. And so there's fixing it, and I think also, um, if you are stressing, struggling, communicate, right? There's the Discord. Say, hey, I'm stuck with this, I'm having problems with this, how do I fix it? So many people will come in and help you. And then also definitely communicate with your bond providers if you have them. Say, hey, this is the situation, this is what I'm doing, this is kind of the forecast. I think people are very understanding if you say, like, hey, this is a situation, your funds are not at risk, this is what's happening, this is what I'm doing, this is what you can kind of expect. And I think that's probably a good time to come up onto the topic of slashes, which is basically when you run a node, you put up that bond, that capital, which is at risk to keep you honest. And there is two types of things that can happen. So as the people swap through the network, that will build up some kind of a pool of rewards. And at the end of a churn, which is sort of a 3-day cycle, which some nodes will join and some nodes will leave, that pool is that will then be paid out to all the active nodes. Now, that pool is distributed proportionately to how much your share of the total bonded rune, and also it's then reduced slightly by slashes. And so if your node is not performing that well, you will accumulate more slashes. But those are not those are kind of like a it's not a car crash, it's just putting on the brakes a little bit, right? Because your original capital is not at risk, it's just you're earning a slightly lower return. So if I just actually, it's probably not a I've got sort of the dashboard open. The APYs are always ridiculous right after a churn, right? So it's probably
Yeah,
not a good time to
17,000% APR.
yeah.
Yep.
But again, so I'll just mention it anyway. So the top node at the moment has got a 143% APY, and the bottom node has an 85, right? And so it kind of that gives you an idea about the spread. So the top node is earning like double the percentage return from the bottom, and that's because the bottom one has, you know, well, 800 slash, and the top one has 200. So the bottom node has 8 times as many slash points. So it just reduces the reward allocation that they get. So that's slash points, and not the end of the world. Everyone gets slash points. Just make sure that you should aim to be kind of in the top half of nodes, as much as you can.
Right, right. And so just to bring it home a little bit here, the slash
Yeah.
points, as you said, there are two. You have slashes related to performance, right? And the
Mhm.
worst case is you just don't get any rewards for a churn cycle, which is 3 days,
Yeah.
which maybe you should expect while you're learning. Okay. Don't stress about it too much. The other slash is right. If you try to do something nefarious, then your bond is slash, and then well,
Yeah.
you're being a bad boy and you deserve it. That's
Yeah.
never happened before, as far as I know. I mean, correct me, but I don't think we've ever had anyone. Maybe there's a slash for like like a bug or something,
Yeah.
like a
So
but yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Um, I I'll have to go. If there has been a bond slash for someone trying to attack the network, it was a long time ago, and I can't kind of remember the details. There have definitely been more. I think last week or the week before, there was a bond slash
The
for a
Bifrost,
bug.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and again, that's not the end of the world. So what typically happens in that case is the Nine Realms will look at the slash, investigate the bug. Um, if it's at risk of happening again, they'll release a patch to address it, and then probably in a release or two's time, they then kind of reimburse those nodes for that slash, because they say, look, we've investigated the incident, no one was acting maliciously, no funds were stolen. They reimburse those bond providers. So again, it's a mechanism there to keep people honest, but it's not kind of like the Wild West that you look at someone wrong and you get shot, right? It's
Right.
yeah, it's I
Right.
think
Yeah.
I think it's reasonably fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You will always get slash points to some degree, right? The,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
goal is to just minimize them much you can. That's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
We always try to optimize the system, so those slash points are much less. I mean, back in the day, back in 2022, whatever, like we would have the slashes were more bipolar, but that's just because we had a more immature code base, right? At this point, when those things happen, like that Bifrost thing you mentioned, which is a recent event, these are
Yeah.
becoming more and more infrequent, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just it's it's just a part of the deal. I mean, we're still on the frontier of this, right? But lots of cool things are coming. We have regular live streams that we do. We now have Hugin, which is that cloud AI engine, right? And the code base is just getting better and better and better. I mean, and as we said, like when it comes to entry point, this is the best it's ever been. When it comes
Yeah.
to the resources available to learn, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what I was also going to say is just also to maybe put people's mind at rest. Let's put some figures. So I remember the last time I got a bond slash on my node. I don't think I was affected by this last one wave, but the last time that I got a bond slash, I got it was 6,000 rune in total across my node, which had roughly a million bonded. So it was almost like 0.5% was taken from everyone's bond. Again, it's not kind of ideally what we want to happen, but it was immediately even paid back with the rewards from just that churn, and then obviously
Right.
it was reimbursed later, right? So again, maybe just to put people's minds at ease, when these bugs do happen, it's not like bam, all of a sudden, half your bond's gone. It will be maybe 6,000, 10,000, which is kind of distributed evenly across your node, and then after investigation, it's likely to be reimbursed. So yeah, it's not like all your funds disappear overnight.
Right, right. And there are so many things here to talk about, right? I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of things. I mean, the first thing is just to get started, right? Just get your feet wet, get involved and do it. We try to be as open and as transparent as we possibly can, right? We don't, that's the really thing that THORChain always thrives on. I think it's just raw transparency, giving the facts straight, no BS, no nonsense, right? This is what it is and this is how it works. Slambammer, do you think we need any topic that we kind of missed? We kind of went a broad overview. Is there anything else that you want to say? Because I think we got the gist of what it is, I think, to be a node operator at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'd also probably at this point just like to sort of express my gratitude to all the people that do work in the ecosystem. I've been a node operator for about a year now. So I've seen a few things now, but there's people that have been incredibly experienced, very generous with their time to support me, in the Discord, and I know that they're still around and still giving the support. And yeah, there's a lot of other great people as well. I mean, I had a call with Chad the other day to discuss a change that I think will make it easier for new operators to join. Um, you know, brilliant guy. There's yourself and Kenton who pushing so hard to get the word out there, which is great to see. And I mean, even people like Coke, who's a bit more behind the scenes. But I mean, the organization that you have to keep the wheels churning with putting all of these videos out there and stuff. Really appreciate all the work you guys do as well.
Yeah, and we have Richie and then also a lot of the guys on the marketing team. I mean, it's a team effort, right? All of us are
Mm.
working together because we all believe in what we're doing. For people to reach you, it is at Slambammer on X, correct?
Yeah, I've been sort of a little less active on X recently, but I'm gonna sort of get back out there again. But yeah, I'll generally respond to DMs. If I don't, it's probably because you got lost in one of the 10,000 spam messages I'm sure you
Yeah,
get
I
as well.
know.
Um,
Oh my
but yeah,
God, I know.
just if you if
I
you if you need to get hold of me, just keep trying. So I'm Slambam on X and Discord. Feel free to ping me, and yeah, I'm happy to point you in the right direction.
I am also Patriot Sounds on X as well. And yes, I also have just hordes of
Yeah.
beautiful women in my DM who are trying to
Oh
get with
yeah,
me
yeah,
every day.
yeah,
It's just I gotta keep pushing them away. You know what I mean? It is what it is, ladies. I'm too
yeah,
busy for you. I'm too busy for
yeah,
you changing the world. You know what I mean? Maybe one day. Maybe one
yeah,
day. I'll respond. Okay,
yeah.
guys. Go ahead, chat slam.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, so uh but I'll probably we'll see what the response is to this, but I floated the idea to maybe Denny and Kokov, I'd need some prep time, but I could probably try and create a node on a video if that's sort of helpful to people to see how how the process works. The Obviously the run book is all there from that amazing guide that Runtard set up, but you can always create a node with less chain daemons, and then uh, I could probably do one on my laptop just to show people. So yeah, I don't want anyone to be put off. Just give it a
Yes.
go and see if you like it, um and see if it's for you.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know what, Slambammer, I think that would be really good because when you give someone a guide and a lot of documentation, a lot of reading, I think it hits different when you show them visually. Like if we do a video demonstration of how it works, I think people really appreciate it. I think that's easier to consume, right?
Yeah.
It gives them a good expectation because, initially when you get your first Endora, there is a lot to learn, right? But
Mm.
if you keep at it, and remember, guys, there's so many resources for you, so many people, so many guides. We will help you. And so maybe this video tutorial, I think it's going to be one. But you guys let us know out there watching this right now. Let us know what you want specifically. If you are a node operator or you think we missed a spot and you want us to highlight, please let us know as well. And again, guys, if you are someone who are interested in taking on this challenge, reach out to Slambammer. You can reach out to me at Patriot Sounds on X, at Slambammer on X. We will get you guys going. We'll get you all the resources And Slambammer did mention it earlier, runebond.com, runebond.com. That is a spot also that you can host your node on and get some BPs that way. We have a really great interface that gets people started and gets your BPs running, right? So we are here to help you. We want to help you. Remember, you can make this network even better than it already is. Slambammer was, I believe you were trained by Runtard, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you are doing the monthly drills, man. So you've really come up in the world, and we would love, this is a thriving ecosystem. Be a part of it, guys. Be a part of it. We want you. We welcome you. We're here to help you. We will go the extra mile to help you, 100%.
Yeah.
So perfect. Well, I think we'll
Mm.
leave it there, you guys. Slambammer, thank you, dude, so much. It's been an hour-long conversation almost. It's been really great. Let's see what the community says, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, me too. All
I'll
right, guys.
find out if I said anything wrong.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we always say thing wrong. And I'm on a live stream, buddy. I'm always like, oh, did I say that correctly? Dude, I'm always
Yeah.
having those thoughts. So it's a complicated protocol. And there's everyone's armchair general, like, oh, that's technically inaccurate. Actually, the one of those
Yeah. Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chill out, everybody. We're
Yeah.
humans. With that being said, guys, we hope everyone has a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next time. Bye
All
bye.
right. Cheers.